About a month ago, I made a YouTube video debunking one of the worst, and I'm not even kidding, one of the worst.
All right, so we back. He's back. He's back at it. He made a response video to me a month ago. I didn't even see this. I think that's why he was in my comments recently, which is the only reason why I even remember this dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I remember this dude like a while back. Yeah, he made a response video on me, and then digging through his videos, because he keeps talking about Miles. He's a Miles meat muncher. It's literally his whole thing. And like, he says a lot of contradicting things throughout multiple videos that bother me. But as the nitpicking person I am, I'm going to go through it. But I've only seen 7 minutes of this video so far. I'm going to play it all the way back. And I'm just going to like dissect his arguments from my arguments piece by piece. And we're going to see if they have some weight to them. Now, me personally, I think it's full of shit. And, you know, it is. And I'm going to explain why. Let's just get into it.
Going by that description, then we can pretty much apply that to, I don't know, every fucking fictional character that's ever existed.
So his response to basically me saying that, you know, Spider-Man is a derivative from Spider-Man. Yeah, I know. It's that stupid today. Yeah, he's saying that Spider-Man, a legacy character, by its own making and by its own admission, is original, and no other character by extension is original. And to some extent, the crazy part is I agree, right? As far as the inspiration angle, I mean literally original in name, literally, and in literal everything else as far as their power set. I don't give a shit about their whole character arcs they go on. I don't give a shit about the layers of onions between these characters, because that's not the point. The point is literally and visually, they wear the same symbol on their chest and literally, for the most part, have the same power set. I don't understand what is hard to understand about that. It is clear cut as day, but got me a little bit emotional. I apologize, but let's move on.
There are no characters or superheroes that is completely original and of their own making.
Yeah, this is a small little editor's note. I just want to add this in here because this brainlet didn't even know I was speaking of context specifically in the Marvel universe when I spoke on Miles and Peter's originality or unoriginality. This man is an idiot. Moving on.
That's literally not possible. Every character created in fiction is always inspired by another concept, an idea, or another character in some way.
And then he even brought up the fact that Stan Lee, you know, brought up the inspiration for Spider-Man, and it was in a guy called The Spider. It was like a weird comic strip way back when.
Then I remembered I had loved that pulp magazine called The Spider. I think it was called The Spider, Master of Men. There was nothing spiderish about him.
Right.
It was just a name he had. He was just a guy in a hat, and, you know, he hit people.
And the crazy part about it, literally Stan Lee says it himself. He literally has basically no spider-like aspects. I even looked at it into it myself. He literally doesn't even look like a spider type of character in the first place, which is what Stan Lee meant. Obviously, you know, the ropes he swings on, yeah, it's not even a gotcha. Yes, he scales buildings and swings on ropes. Okay. And that's not the point. He's not literally Spider-Man. When, you know, Josh Keaton was, you know, running around, you know, playing other versions of Spider-Man. Yeah, they were just other versions of Spider-Man. Like, no one had a problem calling him all just Spider-Man because they were literally, one, voiced by the dude who literally voiced Spider-Man. And two, the companies that made the freaking thing made them even more similar to Spider-Man. If you look at the comics, Black Spider is nothing like Spider-Man at all besides having a spider on his freaking suit. And that's it. But the craziest part about it is Miles is literally Spider-Man. Same name and basically the same power set. Avoid a couple electric shocks here and there. Like, I don't get it. Why is he doing this? Like, dude, he's not original. It's fine. It doesn't mean he's the worst character in the world. He's just not original, and that's fine. I don't get it. You wouldn't sit here and look at me in full honesty and say the Spider from the comic strip and Spider-Man is 1-to-1. If DC came out and said that Black Spider was Spider-Man, they would be getting sued right now. Like, I don't understand what's hard to understand about this. And again, when I said it, I was applying it to the same universes, i.e. Marvel. Hell, even the Scarlet Spiders literally don't even call themselves Spider-Man. Miles literally calls himself Spider-Man. Like, he uses the moniker. He literally has the torch passed to him. I don't know what you want from me. Like, it's literally what happens in the comics themselves. But moving on.
Also, when you defined original, at first you said it doesn't take inspiration from other characters.
Original character is a character that doesn't take inspiration from other characters.
And then, like, literally 2 seconds later, you said this.
Obviously, there can be inspirations, but overall, it is literally their entire own character.
Okay, so is it allowed to take inspiration or is it not allowed to take inspirations? Make up your mind.
When I said they can take inspirations, I literally meant like ideals, like why they put on the mask, why they do what they do. A perfect example is the hero killer Stain and Dobby, right? Dobby took inspiration from hero killer Stain's, philosophy of what a real hero is, literally. So just since I'm on this note, I don't understand why people lose their minds whenever they have so many different freaking versions of the same character. Doesn't it kind of take away from the accidental nature and anyone could be Spider-Man if everyone could just get bit by a spider or be cloned from a dude who bit by a spider? It's just like, yeah, I hold this criticism for all Spider-Man.
All very distinct characters with different stories that are written well, so, I mean, no one's gonna give a shit.
So he does this thing where he attributes them being original just because they have, different things about them, which is stupid to me. They are still calling themselves spider people and swinging on webs as Spider-Man does and literally has the same Spider-Man emblem. I don't get it. Like, it's so obvious what I'm talking about. Yet for some reason, Miles fans refuse to just admit what is right in front of them. Like, you're saying that because they have character depth that makes them entirely original? It doesn't. It just makes them deeper characters. I don't like Satoru Gojo, but he's interesting nonetheless. He is probably at least top 3 interesting characters, just off of that alone. Even though I don't like him, I still want to know as much about him as possible. He's like, I don't get it. I just don't get it, man. But moving on, we got to move on to the next point.
Example, we have multiple iterations of the fucking Power Rangers. They're different characters from different universes and everybody loves them.
Okay, please, for the love of God, stick to yo, because I know this is going to pain you to understand. And I'm not going to talk about comics because, as you said in one of your more recent Miles videos, you don't give a shit about the comics.
And we're gonna look at the games, movies, even some aspects in the comics, even though I don't give a shit about the comics, even though I don't give a shit about the comics, even though I don't give a shit about the comics.
So I'm not going to touch that. I'm gonna stick to strictly the canon show universe, right? Or the less cinematic universe. So for one, they're literally in the same universe as you dumbass motherfucker. You know what's crazy? They have crossovers. You know how many times Tommy Oliver has been a part of a major Power Rangers group? More than you might think, believe it or not. And Tommy Oliver is literally the same Tommy Oliver across multiple shows. They even had like a giant cinematic style crossover recently. You know what? I'm sorry. You're unintelligent in what you're talking about. Please stick to what you know, which is just glazing Miles and, arguing stupid ass points. So real quick, before we get into the actual critique of the next point, I just want to point something out. This idiot needs to learn how to cut his freaking videos better because, oh my God, y'all got to see this.
Completely differently. I'll actually give you an example. Peter quit because Spider-Man, pressure of trying to live a normal life was too.
Also, please cut your videos better because you were in the middle of a point right here, like 5-something minutes in, and it just cut halfway through your point. Like it wasn't even a full point because it literally cut midway through. Dude, fix your editing. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny or anything. Fix it, please. Like, I know you're recording on like a flip phone or whatever.
A few minutes later.
To give you an example, Peter quit because Spider-Man, pressure of trying to live a normal life was too strained by being Spider-Man. Failing school, he had health issues going on with Aunt May. Miles quit because his mom got killed as a result of him being Spider-Man. Fighting Venom, some bullshit happened. Police were shooting at Venom, and his mom caught a stray bullet as a result of the gunfire, and she died.
So let me get this straight. In its unoriginality, it's original. It's what you're saying. That's literally what you're saying, right? Because the two things you compared, as far as, both Spider-Mans miraculously losing a loved one that just so happened to be female and just so happened to be an integral part of their life. But this is different, by the way. One is a person of color and a younger woman, and the other one is a old white lady. So that makes it different. Like what? They both almost lost You see what I mean, right? Most of your arguments are just, it's different because it's slightly different. That's literally most of your arguments. In fact, it's all of them. But let's continue.
And for the symbiote thing, like, Peter, you do know Peter isn't the only one who's had the symbiote, right? Wolverine's had the symbiote before. Does that make him the same as Peter? Like,
And then he brought up the fact that Wolverine had the symbiote as a debunk to my point about a Spider-Man going by the same name and performing the same feats, having the same power set for the most part as Spider-Man. You would have had a better argument if you used Deadpool. He was literally made to be a parody of Spider-Man and Deathstroke. Like, that was an easy layup and you didn't take it. Instead, you went with the stupidest option. And literally it is stupid because last time I checked, Wolverine doesn't call himself Spider-Man and sling to webs. By that logic, what, you're gonna say Hulk as a parody version of my take? Like, it's in poor taste, but go for it. I mean, it's right up your alley. You use Wolverine, you idiot. Like, come on, stop. If you're going to make a point that it's valid. That doesn't even make any sense.
like, do y'all know how idiotic this sounds?
It's the very fact that he called my point idiotic. You use Wolverine as a gotcha because he wore the symbiote. Wolverine, a literally entirely different character from Spider-Man. Okay.
That's the thing. Why are we making arguments about comics from like 10 fucking years ago? Because as far as I'm aware, his comics today are completely different.
A few minutes later.
Even though I don't give a shit about the comics. Even though I don't give a shit about the comics. Even though I don't give a shit about the comics. When we say original, like, it's used as a relative term. Like, when we refer to Peter as the original Spider-Man, that pretty much means he's the first iteration of Spider-Man. Bruce Wayne is the first iteration of Batman. He is the first iteration of Batman.
And then he starts yapping about how people use original. You do realize people use it differently, right? In general. This is a moot point. You're literally just yapping. I'm not even going to break it down.
Makes them original is giving them defining traits and characteristics that make them stand out as characters.
Let me get this straight. Giving them defining traits make them stand out as characters, but it doesn't take away the fact that they're still not original, which again, let me clarify. It's fine that they're not. They don't have to be. Whether or not Miles is original or not, it's not going to stop him from being popular because he's freaking Spider-Man. If Miles wasn't going by Spider-Man, he would not be as popular. You know it, and every single Miles fan deep down knows that. They all know it. They just won't say it. Anyway, moving past that, I do want to attack it more realistically and more thoroughly. So first and foremost, again, just because the character is interesting, it doesn't mean they are now an entirely different character. I don't understand why you don't get that, because actually, you do get that. You're just being disingenuous, which is weird. Like, your whole video, your whole takes is just, nuh-uh, they are original because there are slight differences between the similarities. Okay? And
that's the thing. Both Peter and Miles have that. That's why calling Miles unoriginal simply because he wears the Spider-Man moniker, that's not a valid enough criticism.
Calling Miles out because he literally has the same moniker, same story arcs, basic motivations are literally still the same, and even lost an uncle as well. Like, that is a valid criticism. You could say it's dated all you want. It doesn't matter. Just because it's dated, it doesn't mean it's therefore obsolete. Like, what do you mean? People still talk about Dragon Ball Z to this day. People still talk about Dragon Ball to this day.
Example. Jaime Reyes and Ted Kord are two characters that go by Blue Beetle but are completely different characters with different personalities and character traits. Barry Allen and Wally West are two characters that go by The Flash but are two different characters with different personalities and character traits.
He further, basically confirms my talking points as far as me saying that, again, he has the most surface level view when it comes to what makes a character original. Oh, they have different names. They have different experiences. Therefore, they're completely different. Even though they still put on the same pajamas and go out at night punching people and literally calling themselves the same name. Like, what? Again, I really could end the video off here. Like, realistically, I'm gonna add a little bit more in here and then I'm gonna just go to bed because it's just stupid to me.
Damian Wayne and Dick Grayson were both Robin at one point. They are also two completely different characters with different personalities and character traits. That's why I referenced those specific characters, because no one calls them unoriginal for sharing the moniker.
This idiot just said that no one calls the Robins original. You do realize the whole purpose Jason Todd even had a hair color rechange was because he looked too much like Dick Grayson. Don't even get me started on the other Robins. It's literally a meme. You're just straight up lying now. But of course, as I know,
but they like to call Miles unoriginal for sharing the moniker. If you're gonna spout that energy for Miles, but you're not gonna keep that same energy for literally all of these other characters that have existed.
You do realize, you idiot, that's because no one asked me to make a video on it. You don't even know my thoughts on it, you jackass. How are you going to speak for me?
In fiction, simply because you don't like Miles as a character, guess what? That's called being a hypocrite.
So I'm a hypocrite, even though when I talked about the other Spider-Man, I kept that same energy. Okay. And then he literally just makes his video moot. He literally says the whole point of Miles' character is to embrace the fact that he's Spider-Man. Like, his whole character is literally him becoming Spider-Man. I'm done with this video, and I'm not touching on another response video. If he makes a video on me again, dude, I don't care. Like, respectfully. Again, man, you something, man.
It's the same with these idiots that want Miles' name changed for no real reason other than the fact that they just don't want him to be Spider-Man.
Gee, have you ever thought that maybe they'd want Miles to have a name change because they just don't want Peter to be replaced, which doesn't have any animosity in it? They just like the original better than the knockoff. They did the same thing with Scarlet Spider, Spider-Man 2099, all the other Spider-Man knockoffs. They are not Peter. They will never be Peter. And that's okay. Cry about it, dude. Personally.